Hi, welcome to Block 4, Operations and Equations with Directed Numbers, Lesson 4. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned how to perform calculations where your results gave you either numbers greater than zero, positive numbers, or numbers less than zero. So your calculation meant working with directed numbers or positive and negative integers, your calculation had to cross zero. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to add directed numbers. Directed numbers are also called positive and negative integers. Make sure you like the video, you subscribe to the channel, and you share the video with those you think can benefit. And also click on the notification bell so that when new videos are released, you'll be notified. By showing us this favor, you help us grow our mission to educate the global population of children who may not have access to high quality education around the world. Before we start, I would like you to pause the video and answer these retrieval practice questions. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered these retrieval practice questions, here are the answers. So what is the total value of the counters? You can see that we have 5 negative counters, so the value is -5. If we add 2 more -1 counters, we'll have -7. And then here we're asked to work out the missing number in the part whole model. Of course, we know that the two numbers at the bottom of the part whole model should add up to 83. So to get that number, we can do 83 subtract 57, which will give us 26. All right, let's do a new learning. If we have these two pairs, what do you think the result will be? What is the total value of these counters? Well, if you think about it, let's use a number line to demonstrate this. Imagine we start at 0 and we add 1, which is for the yellow counter, and then we subtract 1. That will take us to 0. So this, we call it 0 pair, because when you add them, you're going to get 0. So for example, +2, -2 added together will give you 0. So we're going to be working with 0 pairs. What about this one? We can start to do calculations like this by thinking about 0 pairs. So here we have 3 yellow counters, positive counters, and we have 2 negative red counters. So quickly, we can identify that these will give us 0. So we're just left with 1. So our result is 1. This one, it may not be relatively obvious to combine the 0 pairs and then find out what is left. But if we rearrange them, we can see that we have 2 pairs of which makes 0 pairs. So we're just left with 3 negative counters, which is -3. Okay, if we want to do a calculation like this, what do you think the result will be? Well, if you think about representing the calculation using counters, this is what you get. So really quickly, you can identify the 0 pairs. You're just left with 2 positive counters, and your answer is 2. But there is another way I want you to think about this. There is something in maths when we combine operations, there is a result that I want you to take note of. And we're going to make use of it so many times, even in our next lesson. So when we have a pair like this, the result is negative. When we have a pair like this of signs next to each other, the result is negative. When we have a pair like this, the result is positive. And when we have a pair like this, the result is positive. For now, let's focus on this one. So using the same idea, we want to get what the actual result will be. So these two pair, the result is 5 subtract, remember what I said? 5 subtract 3. And of course, 5 subtract 3 is equal to 2. So there are two ways, there are different ways to think about this problem, which will make it make sense to you. Okay, if we use the counter method, we'll have this. Okay, so we have two counters that are positive. You can see in maths, when we write a number without any sign before it, we just know it's positive. Okay, so we have -7 counters and we want to add them. We're adding them. Okay, so we quickly identify the 0 pairs and we're just left with 5 negative counters. So our result is -5. Well, let's use the other idea which I showed you. So we have 2, we have add, then subtract. We said these two pair, the result of these two pair next to each other is negative. So actually we have 2 subtract 7. Well, by now you know how to work with directed numbers, or you know how to work with positive and negative integers. So 2 subtract 7 is -5. How do we know? Remember how you worked with number line in your previous lesson? 2 subtract 7 means if you were on the number line at 2, subtract 7 means you need to do 7 steps to the left, which will take you to -5. Another way of thinking about it is 2 subtract 7, right? What will take me to 0? Because it's obvious this calculation will cross 0, which is what we learned in our previous lesson. So 2 subtract 2 is 0. And then we need to subtract 5 more. So 0, and then if we have to subtract 5, will take us to -5. So these are different ways of looking at the same problem. It's now time for you to pause the video and practice what you've learned. So pause the video and answer questions 1 and 2 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 1 and 2, here are the answers. Okay, so very quickly, you can see that you were asked what's the total value of each set of counters, and you can quickly see the result. Okay. So using 0 pairs or just counting the positive or negative counters and then rearranging them or using 0 pairs, you should get the answer quickly. Here are the answers for question 2. So using the idea, which I really think you should use, okay, this is like saying 3 minus 5. This is like saying 5 minus 3. Okay. Here you're asked to use this to answer the question. So we have 2 positive counters. We have 7 negative counters. So that will be -7. So 2 subtract, this will become 2 subtract 7, which is -5. This is -2 add 5. Okay, you can use your number line to do this. So -2 add 5 means you start at -2 and you do 5 steps forward on your number line. That will take you to 3. Pause the video and answer questions 3, 4, and 5 in 6 minutes. Assuming you have paused the video and you've answered questions 3, 4, and 5, here are the answers. So here for question 3, you can see that you were asked to complete the calculations. By now, you should know how to master these calculations. Remember what we learned about the sign, the pairs of the sign. So that is like saying minus to -7. Okay, that one you can use a number line to think about the result for that. That one, you can use a number line as well. This one is like saying -4, because these two positive, negative will become negative. So -4 subtract 3. So you start at -4 and you count 3 steps to the left on your number line. That will take you to -7. And then here you were asked to use the counters to help you work this out. Okay, You may not even need the counter because by now you know the technique I've shown you. So this is like saying -2 subtract 6. So you start at -2, you subtract 6 is to make 6 steps to the left, and then you take you to -8. And these are the other calculations which you should do. All right. What if we want to answer questions like this where the numbers are really large? Well, looking at the calculation, it may not be obvious to do this straight away, but we can use our zero pair knowledge or our knowledge of calculations that cross zero. So we can see that we want to add -214 to 175. This calculation will definitely cross zero. How? 175 minus 175 takes us straight away to zero. And then we start to think, okay, we must still have some negatives to add to 175, but we don't have anything anymore. It's now zero. So what is left is -39. So our result should be negative. Our result should be -39. Another way of thinking about it is what I showed you before. These two become negative. So we have 175. So the positive and the negative next to each other become negative. So 175 minus 214. Now think about it. By now, you should know how things actually work. You're trying to subtract that from 175. So your answer will definitely be a negative number. So it's a bit like saying, well, let me do it the way I would normally do it without thinking about the negative sign. You would get 39, but you know your result should be negative because you are trying to take away a very large number from a smaller number. Now, what you've been learning so far, you can apply the same in simplifying algebraic terms. So thinking about what we've learned so far, using our counters, we can say, well, we have 10 positive counters and we have 3 negative counters, but we just have x. Okay, this could have been written 1x, 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 but we don't write it in maths, so we just have x. So you could have even ignored the x, you will get the same answer in the end. In the end, you just put x in front of the number. So our answer, these are 0 pairs, we're left with 7 x's or x, so our answer would just be 7x. Well, you could think about it the way I showed you. So these two pair are actually negative. Yeah. So positive, negative next to each other is negative. The resulting sign is negative. So it's like saying 10x minus 3x, which is 7x. All right. It's now time for you to practice. So pause the video and practice what you've learned. So pause the video and answer questions 6 and 7 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 6 and 7, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So you were asked to complete the part whole model. We have 12 here. Remember, for a part whole model, whatever you add at the bottom should result in what you get at the top. So we have 16, but here, what do we have to add to 16 to get 12? It has to be a subtracting 4, operation. So you need to subtract 4 to get 12. Here you have -8 here. What do you have to add to -9 to get -8? So you could use your number line to think about it. If I am at -9 and then to get to -8, I'm going to have to do one step to the right. So it means I'm adding 1. And you could have done the same here. If you are on 16 and you have to go to 12, the number 12, it means you have to do a number of steps to the left to get to a number lesser than 16. Remember what we learned. On your number line, your numbers moving towards the right become bigger, and your numbers moving towards the left become smaller. And then to move towards the left, it means you're actually subtracting. Okay, so, and that's how you get this result. So this one, work out the missing numbers in these statements. Here, remember, you can say these two are negative. So it's like saying 4 minus 9, okay, which we know is 5. We're now trying to see, okay, what could be here so that we get 5 on the other side as well. So that would be 2 add negative 7. So imagine if you're on 2, for you to get to 5, okay, sorry, it's negative 5. I made a mistake. So 4 subtract 9 is negative 5. So if you're on 2, the position 2 on your number line, for you to get to negative 5, you're going to have to do 7 steps to the left. And that's why we have negative 7. This one, this is like saying 9 minus 4, right? The two signs, positive, negative, will become negative. And you could use counters to do this. You can use number line to do this. So you're thinking, okay, if I start at negative 7 and I want to get a result of 5, how many steps do I have to add? I have to add 12 steps. And then here we have negative 12, subtract negative 1. Why? Here, these two will become negative. So we have negative 4, subtract 9. If you use your number line, you will see that that is 13, negative 13. So we're thinking, okay, what do I have to put here so that when I subtract 1 from it, I will get negative 13? It has to be negative 12. And then it's the same here. So this is like saying negative 9 subtract 4, which will be negative 13. So you're thinking, right, if I am on position negative 7 on a number line, what do I have to add to negative 7 to get negative 13? You think, okay, negative 13 has to be smaller than negative 7. So it means I have to move to the left on my number line. And the number of steps to do that will be 6 steps. So to the left, 6 steps means subtract 6. So negative 7 subtract 6. Remember, these two can become negative. Subtract 6 will give us negative 13. Pause the video and answer questions 8 and 9 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 8 and 9, here are the answers. So for this one, you were asked to complete the calculations. So this is, remember by now, you can use the quick method I've shown you. So this is like saying 372 minus 408. Now, you're definitely going to have a negative number. So even if you do 408, so that you can use a conventional way of doing the calculation, 408 minus 372, you say, well, I'm doing this so that you can quickly do the calculation using your mental method or your written method, but your result will be negative. Why? Because you're subtracting a bigger number from a smaller number. And then here you were asked to work out these calculations. This is like saying, remember, these two become negative 20, subtract 35. This is like saying negative 10, because these two will become negative, negative 10, subtract 32. And then this is like saying 25, subtract 30. And then this is like saying 291, subtract 527. Okay? And then this is like saying negative, remember these two become negative, yeah? This one negative, that's why we did what we did. So this is like saying negative 291 subtract 520, negative 527. Now you're definitely going to have a very large negative number. Why? You have negative 291, you're subtracting even a bigger number. So you're going to go further left. So a quick way to do it is just to add the numbers, but you put negative next to it. Next, you ask, in a quiz, you receive 7 points for a correct answer, negative 4 points for an incorrect answer. You receive 0 points if you do not answer the question. There are 20 questions in total. Is it possible to get a score of negative 11? The answer is yes, and that's the answer there. Okay, you can have different combinations. Pause the video and answer question 10 in 3 minutes. So far, you have done lots of learning about how to work with directed numbers. It's now time to apply that learning to algebraic terms. So it's the same thing, but you just have letters in front of the numbers. All right, let's check the answers. So here you can see, using what we've learned so far, these two signs become negative. So it's like saying 6m minus 10m. These two signs become negative. So it's like saying negative 6m minus 10m. Okay. This one, you can use your number line to think about it, or you can use what we've been learning. Negative 6m add 6m will take us to 0. Remember, we partitioned this. We've used 6 already, so we're left with 4m. So our result will just be 4m, because from 0 to 4m is just 4m. This one, these two become negative. So it's like saying negative 6m subtract 10m add 12m. Well, if you think about it, this would be negative 16m. Negative 16m add 12m will be negative 4m. Then this one is negative, okay? So these two positive, negative next to each other will become negative. So 6m subtract 10m will be negative 4m. Okay, so these two will be negative 4m, these two here. Then these two here will be negative, positive, negative will be negative. So we have subtract 17m. Okay, so negative 4m subtract 17m will give us negative 21m. Using the same knowledge, we say these two have to be negative. Okay, so if we do that, we'll have negative 6m add 10m will give us 4m. So these two give us 4m. Then this is negative 4m subtract 24m. Let's move this out of the way. 4m subtract 24m will give us negative 20m. And that brings us to the end of the lesson. So really well done for sticking around and for learning about how to add directed numbers. Another word for directed numbers are positive and negative integers. It's a very important concept and a fundamental knowledge you need to have to start to understand maths. Well done for sticking around and for learning. Until next time, take really good care of yourself, and bye-bye.